Hey, it's your old pal, Slim, and welcome to a special preview episode of our pilot season presented by 70mm. With me, as always, is artist Danny Haas.
Hello.
And our TV insider, Protolexis.
Bilbo Baggins.
This is just a taste of the brand new pilot season, which are episodes just for our supporters on Patreon, Apple, and Spotify, focused on the pilot episodes of TV shows, some of which are so good they might as well be movies. You know, Lost was our first episode, Danny. That's just for supporters.
It should be a movie. Should we get these released in theaters to watch some pilots?
Can we make some phone calls?
Who do we call?
Do we know any movie insiders that could connect the dots for us? We've gotten a ton of DM requests to cover Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
It's a long title.
It is. I don't like making long episode titles, so this might be the longest one we've ever done. But Proto, why not celebrate Labor Day with Lord of the Rings?
Why not? What else is anyone doing? You're not laboring. You're sitting on your bum looking for some TV to watch.
Fired up. So if you're a supporter, we're still planning on doing another pilot episode for September, so stay tuned for that. But for this pilot episode of The Rings of Power, we're going to be covering the first two episodes since they all dropped at the same time on Amazon Video in the States. I'm assuming that's global. It's always, everyone can just watch it on Prime Video. And right before we recorded, I think like they put out a press release. 25 million people watched these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even like the fake Netflix like hours watched. They literally called out viewers, like 25 million viewers.
Ringheads.
It's incredible.
Bezos does it again.
Okay.
So we've covered Lord of the Rings in the past. We covered the only movies that people care about, the original trilogy, not the 7 Hobbit movies. Do you look back fondly on that experience, Danny? The three of us talk about those movies?
It's one of my favorite trilogies. It's something I watch every year. So to be able to journey with the two of you into this Middle Earth of film was a fantastic time. And so I'm excited that we get to talk about this.
Proto, what's your anticipation level for this show leading up to the premiere? Was there anticipation? Were you like cooled off?
Yeah, I think I had a lot of anxiety though. I was fearful of what could go wrong after having recent kerfuffles with TV series and just disappointments. You know, hearing there was whispers in the dark about things not going well for the production of this, you know, what's it going to look like. I mean, what is their track record? Could they pull something like this off? But then, of course, it was Lord of the Rings, which I love and I was very excited for. So I was hopeful, but worrisome. That's probably where I was at most of the time.
What about you, Danny? Is that the same for you?
Exactly the same, pretty much. I mean, when I watched the first trailer, I got real anxiety levels of trying to have to learn new characters and a new story because this doesn't really follow much of any book specifically, let alone bits and pieces. A lot of it's made up by these showrunners. So, of course, I was worried about it. And it's on Amazon. So their track record is what?
Tomorrow War?
Tomorrow War, exactly.
Chris Pratt?
So yeah, I was anxious because I did not want to hate this. I really didn't.
I need to put out a disclaimer just for people that are checking this out. They're like, yes, Rings of Power, 70mm. Maybe they skipped the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm a Lord of the Rings noob. Okay? Everyone just calm down. Okay? You're not going to get Slim the expert here. I'm going to ask dumb questions, but we're going to get through this together. Don't gatekeep these elves from people. The dwarves. Just setting the stage here for this conversation. So for these TV episodes, this is just a preview of what our supporters get. We did Lost, we did X-Files, we have another episode coming. We'll still try to talk about our top 3 things for this episode, but we won't give a rating. We'll just talk about if we want to continue on this journey for this television show. So I'll start. I won't start since I'm the noob. I don't want to give my first thing. I'll wait in the shadows. Danny, what's your number one thing that you...
should I give a little synopsis?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I always do that. I always
No,
forget the
okay.
synopsis.
I'm here for you.
Sorry, it's a new thing for
Yeah.
us. You know,
This is new. It's all brand new.
Fourth time's the charm.
what is the Rings of Power?
Tolkien's book, Lord of the Rings, centers around the One Ring that was made by Sauron the Dark Lord. But there were other rings made in time before that belonged to dwarves, elves, and men. This is a time before Frodo Baggins, Aragorn, and even Gandalf the Grey. We follow the adventures of Galadriel as she hunts for the last stronghold of Sauron, and Elrond as he helps the ringsmith Celebrimbor in a project of great importance. Elsewhere in the world, a Sylvan elf discovers a returning of evil and orcs, and a hobbit east of Mirkwood helps a stranger that has fallen from the sky. This is the Rings of Power.
Howard Shore, amp it up right now.
Oh my
In the
God.
background, Howard.
Howie.
I don't. Is it Howard? It's not Howard.
Yes, the
he's
main
back.
theme is yes.
It's Howie.
Mamma mia.
You
He's
didn't feel
back.
that? You weren't feeling Howie?
Howie. God, we need to watch Uncut Gems for the show.
Oh no.
Stress month. Can you imagine we did like an entire month of movies like Uncut
Just
Gems?
stress movies.
It's just Safdie movies.
Safety month. Okay, Rings of Power. The first 2 episodes, as of recording, are available on Prime Video. You can fire them up in 4K HDR. I didn't actually get these in Dolby Vision. I watched it on Roku. I'm not sure if anyone else saw it elsewhere. But so let's start with Danny. What's the
gosh.
number one note? This is a big event.
It's huge.
Lord of the Rings are huge for you. How did
That's
it go? What's your
fine.
number
I
one?
will start off with my number one note. Disney retire from making television. You're finished. You're finished after this. After
How did I
Stranger
know this
Things,
is the first
after
note?
after Rings of Power, 2 episodes in, I want them gone. Like no more making television. You have been. You look like a fool at this point. So this show, I could not get over how fast I was engaged into Middle Earth again. And all my anxiety was gone within like 15 minutes because I was already hooked with this story. I didn't care that I didn't know most of it. I was in love with Galadriel, like
Oh
my queen.
God.
I wanted to follow her to the ends of everything.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't get over it. I couldn't get over how fast and how well and how all of the $1 billion you could see in these first 2 episodes. It looks and feels and sounds, and the dialogue itself is incredible. Like I am in love already with this show.
It feels like I could hear Danny tearing up talking about the pilot episode of Rings of Power.
It's ridiculous, and it just goes to show when you just have faith in a product. You know, I just feel like
Yeah.
they threw the money at it, and they had people who were passionate about making the show, and it shows. It really does show.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was the opening scene with little Galadriel as a child at the river. I was a little like, I feel like I've seen this before. This doesn't look so great. But then when it cut away from that and she begins narrating what happened to her brother, this like kind of like setting up in the way the first Lord of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Ring sets up. I'm not going to lie to you. I got down on my knees and like. I scooted closer to my TV because I was like, I need to be like soaking this in. I was immediately, just like you, I was enraptured by what I was seeing. Like I felt like I was watching. It was like I felt like when I saw Fellowship for the first time. Like we're back. we are back in Middle Earth.
Mhm.
I had that same feeling. And of course, it's a different level. Things look a little different. It's definitely a different level of production, but they somehow were able to accomplish what you were saying, like what Disney has no clue as to how to accomplish, of doing something at a smaller scale, but still preserving the spirit of the thing.
You just gave me the chills.
I mean, looking back over the last how many decades of Disney has existed, almost 100 years, is Kenobi the worst thing Disney has ever done in
It's
their entire
Obi-Wan
history?
Kenobi, and it's the worst thing they've ever put out.
An absolute abomination of a program. They blew it. Every single angle has been blown by Disney. And I want everyone in prison that was involved in the production of that television show. I know
Imprison
if you like it, that's fine. But I'm telling you, I would imprison them all.
You know what I was worried the most about watching this beginning? Sorry, I'm cutting you off, Slim.
No.
Is comparing so much of it to what Peter Jackson created, and I feel like they touch enough of it to give you the vibe, but they are creating their own thing, and for some reason, they both feel like they work perfect together. And I know we're like second age, and the world hasn't gone to shit yet. And so it looks cleaner, better, but I think that like really helps this story separate itself, but also still feel, I mean, you could have told me Peter directed these and I would have believed you, because it still has that feel. And it's still giving me that Lord of the Rings vibe that we've loved for however many years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the smartest thing they did with this is they totally escaped any uncanny valley you could have by trying to recreate anything that appears in the movies. Even the idea of creating this people of the Harfoots who don't exist with any of the literature that Tolkien created, but they feel like hobbits, but you have no frame of reference in terms of anything other than they are just hobbit people, but have their own culture, who they have their own dialect. They sound a little different. They have all the same things. Like they have the books, they're sneaky. They have all those elements of hobbits, but it all looks different and was able to establish itself, free from what we have in Hobbiton in the movies, which I thought was brilliant.
We're talking about like the $1 billion. I think it's like $1 billion over 5 seasons. I think they're planning on spending. But man, this looked really good. It looked really good. I mean, some of the backdrops, like they look like matte paintings a little bit to me. Like they looked real good. And there was only maybe one scene that I felt like this is maybe a green screen. Other than that, I was like just gawking at the backdrops. I was like, wow, that's gorgeous. And like even at the onset where she's walking with her brother through the fields, I was like, damn, that looks nice.
Yeah.
Like, all of that stuff was gorgeous. Even the scene with her leading her team up the ice.
Oh my God.
I was like, frig me. This
Yeah.
is good. So, Proto, what's your number one for Rings of Power?
Yeah, production was my number one. Number two, which Danny hinted at, is the writing. I probably wrote down like 5 or 6 different lines from this movie. It sounds like stuff from the book to me. Like it is really well written, and not just the dialogue. But I think the crafting of the story is really good. I know some people, I was reading on the Discord, we have a spoilers channel about this coming out, and people are talking about it. And some people feel like it's a little slow. It's they didn't do enough to like maybe hook you with one character or one storyline, because it's really following like these 3 different storylines at once and jumping through. I think it works great. And maybe it's because I'm just like so invested in this world, and I love this universe so much that I don't don't care so much. Like I'm just like eating anything up because it feels really good, that I don't care that like, oh, well, I want to see more Galadriel or I want to see more about like the dwarves. I love everything that they're developing in this story, and it all feels like it's cohesive and leading somewhere. Like each scene is a story beat that's relevant to the central plot, I feel like. And I don't feel like there's no fluff. They're not wasting any time. It's very spread out, but it feels like it's leading somewhere. I was just like really impressed by the way this is written.
Yeah, the first episode, I agree. Like, I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, but I thought I was pretty drawn into the writing. Like, I was pretty drawn into, I mean, Galadriel, I would die for her after that first episode. Excuse me. So, like, we can combine like my first couple points, but am I a Lord of the Rings fan after this first 2 episodes? Like, I was stunned. So like starting off, I knew nothing going in. So I thought this was kind of like a new character at first. And then they said her name and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, that's, I Googled and I was like, oh yeah, these two are in other movies. But when they talk about how they're finally like getting their journey. So like she's on the hunt for Sauron. And she is like getting close, but they get called back and they get the news that they can go to the next realm. They can die. I mean, that scene on the boat, like when she is like so close to the end and she has the like her brother's weapon and she keeps like looking back at it. Oh my God, that was sick. That was so good. And she dives in the water.
And the voiceover kicks in.
But sometimes the lights shine just as brightly reflected in the water as they do in the sky. How am I to know which lights to follow?
Sometimes we cannot know until we have touched the darkness.
Oh, yeah. Like I was, at that point, I was pretty much all in on this series. And I don't like talking about if it's not Stranger Things or something else. Like I usually keep my opinions to myself just because I don't want to get caught up in the hype or the mid-season drama or drowning in other people's opinions. So if I was watching this without you guys or the show, I'd just keep it to myself that I was watching it.
Totally.
Because I think famously the one show that like I just got like drowned in hype was Battlestar Galactica, where like I started watching Battlestar Galactica and I was telling some people and they're like, oh, well, wait until you get to season 4. Wait until you see what happens and when it goes off the rails. And like, I don't want to talk about TV anymore with anybody. But this so far so good. Like the cliffhanger, the first episode was rad. And the second episode with Elrond and his dwarf buddy. The prince. I wrote down his name. What's his name? Prince,
I want you to say his name.
Where did I write it down? Hold on. Elrond not seeing his friend Prince Durin for 20 years.
Yeah.
I love that. I love their interaction on the escalator, the elevator. He's like, 20 years is a lifetime for me. And how he hadn't seen him. Oh my God. I mean, even these characters I couldn't give two craps about before this show. I'm like, I'm pretty already invested, and that's pretty difficult. So it takes $1 billion to do that, I guess.
Well, and it brings back to, Legolas and Gimli and the relationship between an elf and a dwarf. So it kind of ties back to something we're familiar with. And I think I love how they're exploring just the different races and the relationships, and also that element of time for elves relating to other people. Like he's like, oh, it's been 20 years. It's only been that long. And Durin's like, that's my whole life, dude. I had a wife and a family in this time. I love that.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's crazy is the idea of coming into this with only the notion of dwarves and elves hating each other. And I loved what you said when they're on that elevator and they're at odds. And that's kind of like playing into what we know already. But then they're at odds because he hurt him. like he hurt his feelings. Like he hurt him deeply as a friend. And I was like, oh, this is a different level of just being mad at each other. This isn't the elves, at war with the dwarves or whatever, the cause of the turmoil in Lord of the Rings. This is different. This is best friends. And this is a hurt relationship. And to see it like slowly mend back together and the conversations and the way he apologized to him, but he apologized by congratulating him on, his marriage and his kids. And I was like, God damn, Elrond. Like it was such a great moment and I felt it.
Yeah. I mean, how old is he? He's got thousands of years experience probably working on apologies. He knows the right way to apologize. Proto's number 2, so let's rotate to Danny. What's your number 2?
My number 2 was, it really is the relationship between Elrond and Galadriel, because my knowledge of them, because there's not much written about Galadriel that I know. You may correct me if I'm wrong, Proto, but I feel like she's very lightly touched on her life before the Fellowship and Lord of the Rings and all that. And so what I know of Galadriel is basically she's friends with Elrond and Elrond marries her daughter. Like that's about it. So this whole backstory of her being told it's pretty much brand new, correct, Proto? Like this whole story of Galadriel I don't think it's written anywhere. I think it's based off of random songs and the Tales of the Years or whatever it was called in the appendix. But I just fell in love with Galadriel's story. And then also Elrond. They're just fleshed out and written really well to begin with. And I've already not forgotten, but displaced the idea that this isn't Peter Jackson's Elrond and this isn't Cate Blanchett. Like I've already stopped trying to compare, and I'm happy with the way they're written and the way they interact and their projection, like the way their trajectory is in the story. And it's just, it goes back to the writing and the performances that these two people have.
Yeah, I did some digging on Galadriel. Actually,
insider.
So I watched these 2 episodes yesterday, and I immediately hopped on my bike.
Oh gosh!
Rode to the library and got the Silmarillion.
Wow!
The book,
support local.
Because I had to go back. I had to go back because I was like, I gotta get refreshed on like what is coming from Tolkien and what's being made. So I was looking in there because I remember reading Galadriel's mentioned in there, and then I went on the wiki and just like looked her up, and it seems as if there's not a ton, but there's a good bit about just like a summary of what she was doing in the Second Age and what was going on, and this is pretty much diverting completely away from anything that's written. And like she wasn't like a warrior that went like searching for Sauron, in the Northern Wastes or anything. But I don't really care that it's not
right, because
I also maybe have made the mistake that I went on Reddit just to see what people are saying. Oh, and let me tell you, the elite ringheads are out and they are pissed. And I say, get a life. I think, you know what? What's more important is that you tell a good story, I think. And I think what they're doing is they're taking liberties with these characters to tell a good story, a cohesive story that'll be entertaining, that keeps the spirit of the books, but strays away from maybe what's canon, because, no one's ever going to write those, probably like tell those stories anyway. So taking this character and, taking half of what's true from the books and then, adding something that'll just tell a great story, I'm all in. And I don't really mind them adding different stuff because I feel like they're handling it well. It's one thing if they took it and just took a complete steaming pile on it and it sucked, but this feels like people are passionate about it and love it. So I'm just like kind of on board with that when people do it in the right way.
I was going through some of my honorable mentions, but so I wrote down some of those lines about how they were talking about.
Well, the same wind that seeks to blow out a fire may also cause its spread.
Oh, they're talking about the flame,
God,
the fire.
Yes.
And then there was also Elrond said to Durin, "Where there is love, it is never truly dark." I love that line too. Just a simple little line. My number 2, if we could just continue to profess our love for Galadriel in every way, shape, and form. The both boat scenes, but like the when she's swimming and then she comes upon that ship, that like defeated ship, broken down. Everyone's freaking out because there's this worm about to attack them. How about when the worm is coming out of the fog and it looks like their ship?
Yeah.
But it's just more ship pieces on it. Oh my God, that was so badass. And her interaction, was that that guy a human or an elf that she was interacting with?
He was a human.
He was human. Their entire interaction was super cool. She looks gorgeous in that like cloak on the ruins of that ship. I was like, my eyebrows kept going up. My head, you can see my head go down, but my eyes staying up. But my main call out from that is when she gets pulled down underwater and you see that gorgeous underwater shot. And at some point, we probably should call it J.A. Bayona, who's the director of the first 2 episodes. And she's sinking, and then the music hits, and then you see him coming down under after her. F yeah. That's all I can say about that scene. So cool. Loved it.
Beautiful shot.
Proto, you're number 3.
Number 3 already. So the other story, so there's the 2 other storylines. There's the one with the Sylvan elf who is an elf he is in the southern lands, like outside of Mordor. So this is before like Sauron has rebuilt his kingdom in Mordor. So there's just men down there and elves kind of like watching over this land. So he's on a post there, and then there's the I think her name's Gwandwyn.
Was it Bronwyn?
Bronwyn, yeah. So they have some kind of relationship, but it's kind of like a forbidden love thing going on between them. I love this character, this Sylvan elf. His name's Arondir, and I thought this guy who's playing him is so cool. He looks great. Yeah. And then the dialogue between them, he has this line where they're at the well, and she's asking him like, do you guys have healers because you're immortal? Like, do you need them? And he says,
there are, but we call them artificers. Most wounds to our bodies heal of their own accord, so it is their labor instead to render hidden truths as works of beauty.
For beauty has great power to heal the soul. What?
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of lines like this where I was like, dang, this is like, it sounds amazing for this show. And then just like this, I had no idea that they would go here with this, like this concept of an elf and a human. They mentioned that it's only happened twice before in like recorded history, and it was a tragedy. And I think there might be a story that Tolkien wrote about this. So the fact that they're going in this direction too is just really cool. I'm invested in all these storylines. But I found that one of like this romance. Seems like the romance plot, really compelling.
The Bronwyn character. I mean, how about when they go back to the house, her son Theo is locked away because there's like, I think Arondir went down into the well and didn't come back. Something's coming back up, and they have to fight that thing. I'm not sure if that was an orc or something else, but the whole time, and this is probably why like some Redditors, some like Neanderthals hate this show, but like she and her son are it for that fight. Arondir doesn't come back to save the day. Right. And in like 20 years ago, that's probably what would have happened. But now she and her son, and mainly her, like they take ownership of that fight. And then that awesome shot where she decapitates him and then she plops the head down in the bar.
What
that
a transition.
Was so cool. So cool. Killer. So well done. I loved it. And yeah, I'm thoroughly invested in her plot too. Both of them.
Completely.
That scene with the orc Yeah, it felt like a mini horror scene in the middle of the show.
Mm-hmm.
When that you see the wide eye look through the hole at Theo real quick,
Yeah.
it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Some good
Then
stuff.
When he had that thing in his back and then he got caught in like the part of the house and was just like shaking around. Oh my
Mhm.
God, so good.
Do we know what that hilt of the sword is that he's holding, Theo? Where he looks into it and the fire, the symbol of Sauron is there.
Mm-mm.
It
Yeah, I don't
it started
know.
flaming up like it was like a sword that was on fire.
Right.
Yeah,
Looked
like some kind of
incredible.
like some dark magic
Mhm.
weapon that's marked by Sauron in some way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's like any reference to that, but that is so cool that he has the hilt of the sword and he's
Right.
like entranced by it, similar to like the One Ring, which is
Right.
kind
Mhm.
of cool.
And he's keeping it hidden, which is
Has
great.
that symbol ever popped up in the movies? That like Sauron symbol or whatever that is?
No,
That, like-
and maybe like doodled in a book somewhere, but it's not. It's a new symbol, which we're going to probably see tattooed on a million people at this point, like
oh my God.
like the
yeah.
Mandalorian symbol.
Oh. Danny, number 3.
We have to talk about the 2 Harfoots and the stranger.
Yes.
The scene where the asteroid of him flies across the sky and every bit of storyline sees it happen
Yeah.
Yeah.
gave me the chills. Like it felt like, oh, this is significant. Because I felt like if they only showed it land and the Harfoots find it, it's kind of like a big deal-ish. But for everyone in the story to see it, I thought was genius. That something is happening, something big is landing in our area, and
Mhm.
I love the mystery behind this character. It's easy to be like, this is Gandalf, or this is Sauron, or something like that. I like the mystery behind the like the shroud of this character, and I love the 2 female Harfoots. Like the main one, I can't think of her name right now, but her wanting to make something of her life and to be something different and to befriend and try and help this person, this giant they call him, is incredible to watch. And I love
Yeah.
this storyline. I almost feel like I'm very invested in this, mainly because it looked amazing. The asteroid around it,
Mhm.
or the cratered ground with the fire, and the fire's cool. And then when he's awake, the whispering to the fireflies, just like Gandalf does to the moth. Like there's these little hints, like this is a wizard. This is something big. Like, and I have to know more about this person. Like I was so invested in the stranger that I couldn't stop thinking about it for most of the show. Like we have to get back to the storyline. I have to know who this is. Like I was so in love with that.
Yeah, the stranger is like the hatch in Lost.
Yeah.
I just have to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flames like receding back when he was like
Oh.
waking up and stuff, and then they came back. So this is a safe space. I already said I'm the noob, but what's a Harfoot?
Different. I don't want to say race, but it's not a hobbit, but it's like the same
Oh,
kind of.
like
They're
an
not
al-
mentioned, I don't believe. Maybe they're mentioned a little bit in the Fellowship, but they're not the same hobbits
Interesting.
as. And also, they don't own. Well, first of all, Amazon doesn't own the rights to say hobbits. They don't even own the rights to the books, any of the books. So this is kind of they're like licensing the name of Lord of the Rings and stuff. So, yeah, it's a little bit different.
let's see. Number 3 for me. I kind of just want to call out the direction and the cinematography. There was a ton of gorgeous close-up shots of characters when they were having conversations, like really hardcore, just eye lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really taken aback by it. I thought it was gorgeous. And maybe that was like a way for Bayona to kind of like differentiate from the Lord of the Rings movies and maybe add some of his own style. But I was really taken by that. Like, I think especially the scene by the well, there's a few close-up shots of the characters, just pretty to look at and just felt different enough to make it feel different than the main trilogy, but still kind of keep it grounded in the same world. I loved it.
Yeah, the direction feels like very confident in how it's just how the world's being portrayed and feels believable. And there are aspects to it where I thought, one issue that I had, I don't know if you guys had this, but like when I turned this on, this was so incredibly dark on my TV.
Dark?
It like I could barely see in some like the scene with the troll in the first episode.
The snow troll?
Yeah, I could barely make out anything but like the troll's face.
What's what's your brightness set at in that TCL show sponsor?
Well, I have it I had it like on a cinema setting in like dark.
Oh,
so I turned everything to like bright, and it was still kind of dark.
Oh,
and then I put it on my laptop, and it was much brighter. So I don't know what was going on. I haven't had that happen before on my TV.
Interesting. I kind of liked it. I left it dark. I was thinking the same thing. I have it on. I think I have it on like movie setting and then dark. So like some of those scenes were like exceptionally moody for the 2 episodes that I watched.
I thought some of the scenes didn't look so great in terms of like the one scene that really stood out to me is the ceremony the elves had. That looked like very green screeny to me where they were like crowning them. But again, because everything else looks so good and cared for, I don't really mind when things look a little iffy in terms of like the CGI. There's like so many fine details in the background too. Like if you look at the backgrounds, like they didn't like cut any corners. That scene of them at the well, like you look at the house, there's like molding and like the rock looks worn, and he has the door. There's like rust coming off all of like the screws on the door. And then there's the scene where they were out blueberry picking, the Harfoots. And there's like this rock that has like this carving into like the whole rock, but like half of it is like cut off. I was just like really impressed about the amount of detail that went into everything here.
I thought the costumes were amazing.
Yeah.
Like I was Arendir, the soldier, his like chest piece, armor.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, that was so cool looking. And it didn't look like, I think we had this problem when we talked about Mulan ages ago on the show.
Oh my God, I forgot.
When all of the costumes just look like they were just made.
Disney, retire. God.
And I think we probably also caught some of that I know I did in Kenobi. I'm sorry to bring up Kenobi again. For people that like Kenobi,
Don't
this is just the way it's going to be.
We're exorcising demons.
When the Inquisitors, I knew when I was going to have when this show was downhill, when the Inquisitors stepped off that ship in Tatooine and their black armor was in full daylight, you could see everything. And I think I put my head down and started rubbing my forehead during that scene. But like in this, like the elves, their clothing looks gorgeous, but it's not like freshly printed something you can wear to a con. It's like legit. You feel like you're in this world. And same with the soldier, same with everyone else. Beautiful.
Also, thank God that they didn't decide to over-sexualize this like Game of Thrones. Like, there's like none of that. It's all very, I don't know, it's just like focused on the story. Like, you don't need to bait us with like Galadriel, being like the sex icon or anything. Just like tell a good story. Like I just appreciate that too. That they didn't like fall for any of those cheap tricks.
I mean, her being a badass is sexy.
Oh my God, her on that.
I mean, I'm in love.
Boat wreckage alone.
When she is like fingertips in to the Undying Lands.
Yes.
And turns around and jumps off the boat to swim back to Middle Earth. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. J.A. Bayona, who has directed A Monster Calls, The Impossible, and believe it or not, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Same director.
My favorite of that trilogy.
That's true. You were vociferous about that.
You've been right all along.
All right. So honorable mentions. Last remaining notes from Proto, and will you continue after watching the pilot?
Yeah, I guess it's just the other thing, the scene where in the first episode where Galadriel gets back and there's the carved statue of the elves that have fallen in the woods. Like those looked incredible too. Like this was like them being at Rivendell in like the Fellowship.
Yeah, that was nice.
Her line of like, I thought I was going to be one of them. Like, because she was already being sent back to the Undying Lands, and she thought she'd see herself up on a tree. Like, excuse me? Like she's just, I love it.
Yeah. Also that them exploring that conversation they have, like her dealing with eternal PTSD of like the fighting that she's done in the hunt for Sauron, and like how like he's saying, you're going to go to the Undying Lands. And she's like, every song would be torment because of what I've lived through. And he says, only in the blessed realm can that which is broken be healed. My God.
Let me just interject just real quick. What if
Talk to us.
Universal buys the theme park rights for Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and starts building some of these cool sets and has its own land? I mean, throw another few bill at the Tolkiens and New Line, if they're even still a company. I don't know how they're still solvent, but let's make this happen. You know?
I know.
I have never gone to any theme park, but if someone builds Hobbiton in the United States and I can go to it, I'll be there. Okay. I will be there. The second episode, I didn't have as many notes, but how about her eating the live snails?
Ew.
That was pretty hardcore. Yeah.
Just crunching them.
Yeah, I can't really express how excited I am for this stranger character. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, and they're going nuts online about trying to figure out who it could be.
Really?
Like,
Everyone chill.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just enjoy the ride, but man, it's going to be so much fun. Yeah. I'm all in. To be honest, I started rewatching the episodes today. Like that's how psyched I am for this. Like I am so ready for Friday already. Yeah, I will be watching this and rewatching it. I hope we're at this level and this isn't, they're not baiting us, and it's going to drop off. Yeah. So let's all just pray, that this continues, but I'm in love.
Honorable mentions. We got to talk real quick about Khazak Dûm and the dwarves, the mining. It looks incredible.
Oh yeah.
You see them open the box. They're mining the Mithril. You know they're going to go too deep. You know the Balrog's coming. Like this is very exciting stuff. Like when they started showing the sweeping shots of the mine, the bridges, them walking across, everything happening in that. Oh, kiss me. I was so excited about that storyline too. Like every storyline, like I want to know more each time. And it's incredible. I'm with you, Proto. Friday can't come soon enough to see this next episode. I'm very excited about this series.
Yeah, that dwarven area in my notes I wrote looks like a painting. That entire section.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Even him planting that tree? Planting the sapling? Oh my God. You kidding me? That friendship. Whew.
Going through my notes, there was one of my lines was like how they got to that kind of like hidden citadel above the top of the ice that they thought was going to like lead them closer to Sauron. And they're like, no, we have to go back home to report that we saw this, and then we'll come back. My God, how much of a pain in the ass travel would that be?
No way.
Like years or months is that? Jeez. I'd be like the one like lazy elf. I'd be like, come on, guys, it took us 3 years to get here. We're going to travel 3 years back home and then another 3 years to come back, please.
Elf life is like 20 minutes though.
I drove 5 minutes to my Wawa and forgot my wallet, and I was livid. Like I am never coming back to this Wawa, and it's my fault, and I'm not coming back.
The shot of the orc where they were like testing the magic, and he was like annihilationed into the wall.
Oh yeah!
Oh my God! Yes.
I mean that could be a hot photo spot at Universal. The annihilated orc. Selfie with the annihilated orc.
Praying hands right in front of the orc.
Oh, another thing about the dwarves. So it's something famous is that we've never seen like female dwarves. We don't know what they look like. And here's Durin's wife. And then this amazing element of like what their role is, of how like they speak to the mountain and they like send sounds into it. And then that's how they almost have like this radar system to like figure out where to to mine next. I thought that was brilliant. That's like brilliant creative storytelling with that, of like filling out this gap that exists in this this story and adding something so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The sick cow. I thought when they were like shooting out that black goo. I think it was the snow. What was the thing that attacked them?
The snow troll.
Snow troll. We see like the side profile of it. I think when they climb onto the ice, I thought it was like a wolf at first. Like it like shows up as they like go in. The CGI in that thing was nuts. I don't even, maybe that was like a real effect, practical effect, but it looked awesome.
Yeah, it looked great.
The violins when he dives after the underwater. Yeah, I think those are all my mentions. I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous. Fantastic to look at. I mean, the backgrounds alone, it's just we were comparing it to what should have been this good. Like on Disney Plus. We should have gotten this. This should have been Kenobi. And we will never have that. But we do have the Rings of Power, and that's okay too.
Are either of you watching The House of Dragons? Is that what it's called?
I never got into Game of Thrones.
Oh, just wonder how that
Personally.
compared. I mean, I refuse to watch this because of how they left us with the last series, but
We did get a DM. I don't think it was from Brady, who was comparing it to the Dragon show, and he said the CGI is like not even close to
on
what
the Game
this
of
level.
Thrones.
Yeah, it's like not comparable. So this was a special preview of what our supporters, our patrons get for the pilot season. If you dug this, join 350 other people on our Patreon and Spotify and Apple. I don't know what the heck the number is up to, but it's around there. But it was great to watch this. I had fun chatting. Maybe we'll add in, well, actually no, because we record on Thursdays. So we'll always be like a week late.
Let's not be a week late.
Now let's, do we need to move our
Let's
recording?
arrive whenever we mean to.
All right. Well, this is a special episode. Hope you dug it. There's more in the 70M Vault where that came from. And thanks everyone for listening. 70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Pertalexis. Producer at large, Dale_A. Transcripts provided by Sophie Shin and music composed by Cinematric. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. Support our Patreon for access to our VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to our exclusive episodes in the 70mm Vault, discounts on merch, uncut episodes, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.